What's going on, guys? This is Kyle, and today we're going to show you how to make a DIY hammock. Alright, so what this video is going to be designed to do is to show you the exact steps that you need to make your own DIY hammock from start to finish. So it's going to be three parts. Part 1, side hems. Part 2, gathered in sewn channel. And part 3, we're going to show you a couple of different suspension options that you can use to hang your hammock. So let's get started with the side hems. Alright guys, we're down at the sewing machine and we have our fabric. This particular one is 1.6 ounce Hyper D. If you're starting from a Netless hammock kit, you're going to get 4 yards. And I'm today making an 11-foot hammock, so I've cut the fabric down to 11 feet 8 inches. That's to account for a 2-inch end channel, and we'll go over that in depth in part 2 when we do the end channel, the sewn channel. So the first part that we're going to cover is the roll hem or the side hem. If you need more detail on this, I'm not going to go into complete detail, just reference the roll hem video that we have in our DIY library. 1/2 inch roll hem on both the left and the right side of your hammock fabric blank. Lock stitch to start, and then roll down with your 1/2 inch roll hem. Make sure it's feeding through flat. Okay, and that's looking good. So that is the side hem. We're going to do that on, we're going to roll in 1/2 inch, that's just my suggestion, on the width, and then we're going to replicate that. We're going to do it all the way down and then replicate it on the other side, turning in as well. So that's the side hem. Now let's transition to the sewn channel. All right, now we've sewn our side hem on both the left and the right side of the hammock blank, and we're ready for part 2 of our progression, and that is the gathered end sewn channel. Remember I said that we cut the blank at 11 feet 8 inches, and we want an 11-foot finished hammock. So that extra 8 inches is to account for what's going to be a 2-inch gathered end sewn channel, because there's literally no difference between the way that we're going to make this 2-inch sewn channel between that and the way that we did the side hem, because we're going to sew over, we're going to fold over, I should say, 2 inches once, and then fold over again 2 inches. And we're going to do that on both ends. So that's 2, 2, 2, and 2, and that's 8 inches. So that's where the 11-foot 8-inch original cut comes from. So, like I said, no difference between making this roll hem, 1/2 inch roll hem on the side, and making this 2-inch roll hem for the sewn channel. So we're going to fold over about 2 inches and then fold over again. Now I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this. This is the first way. This is the easier way. Well, I should say it's the quicker way. There is another way that we can do it that makes it a little bit easier for beginners, and I'll show you that in just a second, but this is the first way we'll do it. So fold over once, fold over twice, get everything squared up, and now we're ready to roll. I'm going to turn off the auto lock stitch just so you see that. I'm going to stitch over the roll hem before I go back. Alright, now it's locked into place. We're ready to roll. Use the left side of the presser foot as a guide again to keep everything straight, nice and neat. And then we're just going to sew this all the way down. And that's looking good. Everything looks good there. I'm not going to show you the entire thing, but we're going to stitch this all the way down, and then we'll be back in just a second. So we've laid down the first line of stitching, and for strength you want to add a second or possibly a third line of stitching. That just gives the hammock overall more strength. I'm going to show you how to do that. We're right back in the same position. It's the exact same thing. We're going to start at the edge. What I would suggest is spacing these lines out, your stitch rows out maybe about 3/8 of an inch. You know, it's really up to you, but what I do is take the width of the presser foot and just line the first stitch, or each successive stitch, line up with the left side of the presser foot. That gives you a guide, makes everything look nice and straight and professional. So, exact same process. We're going to start with our lock stitch, go over the hem, back, and now we're ready to roll. All you're concentrating on here is keeping things nice and straight. Again, it's not going to matter in the end, but as far as the functionality, but it'll look nicer. Okay, I ran out of end channel, so I'm going to show you on a piece of scrap, but this is the second way that you can do the gathered end sewn channel. I would recommend this way if you're first starting out. It just makes the process of folding over a 2-inch hem. Sometimes that can be a little cumbersome, so this is a way to alleviate some of that headache. What you're going to want to do is fold over just once, 2 inches, and then tack that down. So instead of folding over twice, you're folding over once, tacking it down, and then we're going to come back and put down another line of stitching so that you aren't trying to fumble with 2 folds at once. It just makes it easier. Pretty simple. Fold over once, still do your lock stitch, and then keep the width constant as you can. I'm going to cut that right there, not show the entire thing, but what you would do next is you've got that tacked down. Remember, this is your 2-inch end channel. Then you're going to fold that over right where the line of stitching is. And then come back. Lock stitch again. Won't do the whole thing, but now you see you've got your channel just like you had before. You would go back down, lay your second and third rows of stitching, and you arrive at the same thing. You just took an extra step to get there. So that's another way to do it. All right, guys, so now we're done at the sewing machine. The hammock is finished, all the stitching is done, and we're ready for part 3 of our DIY hammock, and that is the application of the suspension and rigging the hammock up. So if you're getting one of our Netless hammock kits, you're going to get all of the items that you need, both the cordage and the hardware, straight out of the bag. And the standard option is an AM steel cordage and metal cinch buckle suspension. I'm going to show you that one as a first option, and then as a second option, I'm also going to show you a carabiner and sewn sling suspension. So let's check that out right now. All right, so now we're here with the AM steel, and we have that out of the package. You actually have 2 different options on how you're going to do this. You can cut it in half. If you're starting again from our Netless hammock kit, everything is sized appropriately right out of the box for you. You just fold it in half and cut it. You have 2 different options. After you cut it, you can either splice and make a continuous loop. We don't cover that one here. If you want to learn more about doing that, reference our DIY library and our video on that. But what we're going to cover here is the second option, and that is just stringing the AM steel through the end channel, both end channels, and tying knots to make a loop. So you start by, again, if you have the Netless hammock kit, just fold it in half, cut it. You might not have a hot knife, but that's fine. You can just cut it with scissors and then burn it with any fire that you have. And then we are going to run this through. If you're not starting from the Netless hammock kit, I would suggest on a 60-inch wide fabric that you cut the AM steel, the length of AM steel, or whatever cordage that you're using, to something around 26 inches. You could even go up to 30 inches just to give yourself a little bit of slop so that you know that you're going to have enough to tie the knots. So I'm cheating a little bit. I'm going to use, well, not cheating, it's just, I guess, whatever, being smart. We have a little arrow that we've stripped the feathers off of, and we're just going to use the knock as a stringing mechanism. Put it in there, straight through. This literally makes it like 10 times as fast compared to trying to weave it through with your hands. Now that works. All right. Now I'm going to show you the knot. Gather the 2 pieces together, just like this. Go around. We're just going to do a figure 8. There's a number of different knots you can do here. You're free to research on the internet and figure out your own way to do it. This is how we do it, and it's never produced a failure. So we do the figure 8, and then as a backup knot, we have a second overhand knot that's cinched right up to the figure 8. So 1 and 2. That's not going anywhere. pull it tight to set it, and then what you're going to want to do is just hide the cordage. Move this knot all the way to the center of the hammock. Just pull it down. All right, and that's good. And then that is ready for the cinch buckle. We'll be right back. All right, so this is going to be option 2 for stringing up your hammock. You may not have one of these, but it's an option if you're going with our Netless hammock kit. You can upgrade the suspension to this. So this is just a 1/2 inch tubular nylon mil-spec sling, pre-sewn sling. It serves the same purpose as the Amsteel cordage that we showed you as the first option. Put it through. This is just our little jig, but you can put this through with your hands too. This just makes it a little easier. Comes out the other side. Take it off. Pull out your jig. And then this option, you would need a carabiner. You just clip it on. There you go. So this option is just a little bit neater, a little more foolproof using a carabiner, and then probably clipping into something like a daisy chain style strap system. Regardless of whether you choose option 1 or option 2 with the Amsteel cordage or the sling and carabiner, you just replicate this on both ends to finish the rigging of your hammock suspension. All right, guys, now we're outside. We have our finished hammock strung up, and as we pan right to left, you can see the finished product. Everything turned out really nice, and hopefully in this video we've shown you the 3 steps that you need to take in order to make this for yourself. 1 being the side hems, 2 being the gathered in channels and how to sew those, and then 3 the suspension options that you have and how to set up that suspension. So really not a hard project, not a big progression from some of the easier stuff like stuff sacks and whatnot, and highly recommended. If you like this and want to see more videos, follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us on YouTube, and like us on Facebook. We'll see you later.